Welcome back to the Story Pillow, where we journey into the heart of fairy tales and bring their magical worlds to life. Today, we're diving into a unique perspective, a day in the life of a Grimm's fairy tale character. Have you ever wondered what it's like to live in a world full of magic, mystery, and unexpected twists? Today, we follow Elara, the guardian of the enchanted forest, through a typical day in her fantastical world. From morning chores to magical encounters, she faces both the joys and challenges of living in a realm where the extraordinary is just part of the routine. But even in a world full of magic, the choices aren't always easy. What would you do if you had to decide between protecting everything you know or venturing into the unknown to save others? Stay tuned as we unravel the mystery of Elara's day and ask yourself, how would you navigate the challenges of a fairy tale life? A day in the life of a Grimm's fairy tale character. Chapter 1, The Magic Begins. In the heart of an ancient forest, where the trees stretch their limbs like wise old giants, there exists a world few mortals ever glimpse. It's a place where the air shimmers with magic, and the very ground beneath your feet seems alive with secrets. Here, the sun never sets too early, and the moon never rises too late, casting a soft, constant glow on the landscape. The enchanted forest is a realm untouched by time, where every leaf, every stream, and every stone holds a story waiting to be told. Among the creatures of this world is Elara, a sprite whose delicate wings glimmer like the first light of dawn, with skin kissed by sunlight and eyes as deep and blue as the clearest sky. She is both a part of this forest and a being that moves through it with a lightness only magic can bestow. Elara's laughter is like the tinkling of wind chimes, and her footsteps leave faint trails of sparkling dust that twirl and vanish into the breeze. She is small, but within her, the forest magic flows like a river, wild and untamed. Her home is nestled within the roots of an ancient oak tree, a towering presence that has seen the rise and fall of countless seasons. The inside of her home is cozy, with walls made of living wood that shift and bend with the changing seasons. The furniture is carved from the same magical tree, soft as moss, and always just the right size for Elara. Lanterns hang from the branches above, their light soft and warm, casting playful shadows across the stone floors. Each morning, as the first rays of the sun touch the forest floor, the lanterns glow brighter as if greeting the day. Outside, the world is a tapestry of wonders. The flowers that grow in the clearing near Elara's home can sing, their petals vibrating with the melody of the wind. The animals here speak in riddles and rhyme, each with its own peculiar wisdom. Even the breeze carries secrets from distant corners of the world, if you know how to listen. The sky above is painted with the colors of forgotten dreams, and the stars are bright enough to make one believe that magic never sleeps. But there is more to Elara's world than its beauty and serenity. Living in a place so filled with magic means that every day is different, full of unexpected challenges and adventures. The forest, though peaceful on the surface, can change in the blink of an eye. A simple walk might turn into a race against time, or a playful encounter with a talking animal could lead to a puzzle that needs solving. Today, however, Elara is not just wandering through the forest to enjoy its beauty. Today, she has a task to complete, one that could change the very fabric of her world. But today is different from most days in the enchanted forest. As the light filters through the canopy, Elara's usual morning routine is interrupted by a soft but urgent call that drifts through the air, one she can't ignore. It's a familiar voice, the voice of the elder tree, an ancient being whose roots stretch deep into the heart of the forest. Its wisdom is as old as the stars, and its words are always worth heeding. Elara, the voice murmurs, its tone both gentle and serious. The moonflowers have begun to fade. The magic of the forest is in danger. Elara blinks, her heart skipping a beat. The moonflowers are rare, glowing blossoms that only bloom in the deepest part of the forest, hidden beneath the watchful gaze of the stars. Their delicate petals shimmer with an ethereal glow, a symbol of the forest's heart, and they are crucial to maintaining the balance of magic. Without them, the enchantments that keep the forest alive could wither away. Alara's wings twitch with excitement and worry. She knows what she must do. The elder tree has asked her to venture into the heart of the forest, where the moonflowers grow, and gather the last of their blooms before they vanish for good. It is no simple task. The journey is fraught with challenges. The deeper she travels, the more unpredictable the magic becomes. Mischievous sprites love to lead wanderers astray, and the paths are filled with riddles and trickery. But Alara is no stranger to such tests. She has wandered these woods since she was young, and she knows how to listen to the whispers of the trees and the songs of the wind. With a deep breath, Alara adjusts her tiny satchel and flits out of her cozy home, stepping into the mist-covered morning. She knows her task will take her through enchanted groves, across sparkling streams, and through realms that are both beautiful and perilous. It is a task only she can accomplish, a task that will not only save the moonflowers but protect the very heart of the forest itself. As Alara begins her journey, she feels the magic of the forest hum beneath her feet, as if the trees themselves are watching, waiting. There is no turning back now. The adventure has already begun. Living in a world where magic is as common as the air she breathes means Alara's life is never quite as simple as it might seem. The enchanted forest is beautiful, yes, but it is also alive in ways that are both thrilling and unpredictable. Trees speak in whispers only a few can hear, and the flowers sing in soft melodies that can lead one astray if they're not careful. In this place, everything has its own rhythm, and sometimes it's a rhythm that doesn't quite match her own. For instance, Alara's wings, though they shimmer and sparkle in the sunlight, are not always as cooperative as she would like. On certain mornings, the very air seems too thick with magic, and her wings can barely lift her from the ground. On others, when she least expects it, the winds will pick her up and send her tumbling through the air in an uncontrollable spin, the forest below turning into a blur of color. It's as if the very magic of the world plays with her, like a mischievous child testing her strength. And yet, despite the unpredictable nature of magic, there is an undeniable joy in living so closely with it. The forest, with all its enchantments, is a place of wonder at every turn. Just yesterday, Alara sat with a group of chattering rabbits, their ears twitching as they recited the day's riddles. With every riddle, a burst of laughter filled the air, so pure that even the flowers seemed to sway to the sound. The joy of such moments, small and seemingly simple, is something Alara cherishes deeply. But not everything in the fairy tale world is as carefree as it seems. The forest is not without its dangers, and the magic that makes it so wondrous can also be a double-edged sword. The trees may sing sweetly to lull you to sleep, but their branches may also reach out in the dark to trap you if you wander too far off the path. Mischievous sprites play tricks, leading travelers into the wrong parts of the forest, where they might encounter creatures they're not prepared to meet. Even the weather can change on a whim, with rain that falls as softly as petals one moment and turns into a thunderstorm the next. For Alara, though, this constant dance with magic is a part of life. It's what makes each day feel like an adventure waiting to unfold. She can never truly predict what will happen next, but that uncertainty is part of the thrill. Today, as she sets off on her mission to save the moonflowers, she feels that familiar sense of both excitement and trepidation. She knows the journey will be filled with both wonder and challenge, and that's what makes it all the more important. Living in a fairy tale world means embracing the unknown, trusting in magic, even when it leads you down winding paths or through strange and difficult trials. And for Alara, that's what makes it all worthwhile. She doesn't just exist in this enchanted place. She is a part of its ever-changing story, and it is a story she is ready to write with every step she takes. Chapter 2. The morning ritual, a typical day starts. As the first golden rays of dawn creep over the horizon, Alara stirs in her cozy nook beneath the great oak tree. Her wings flutter lightly, stretching to greet the new day. It's a quiet morning, and the soft hum of magic in the air tells her that today will be like no other. But there are still morning chores to be done before any adventure can begin. Alara's home is small but brimming with warmth. Her nest of moss and soft petals cushions her as she rises and tiptoes over to her little hearth. A small fire crackles there, its warmth spreading through the room. With a gentle wave of her hand, Alara stirs the flames, and they glow brighter, casting a soft light that dances on the walls. She hums as she tends to her fire, the flames whispering back in a language only she understands. Next, she heads to the small table where an assortment of dried herbs hangs from the ceiling, filling the air with a sweet fragrance. Alara carefully selects a handful of chamomile and lavender, mixing them in a small wooden bowl. Her fingers work quickly, expertly grinding the herbs into a fine powder, which she then brews into a soothing tea. The steam rises in delicate spirals, carrying the scent of the forest with it. As the tea brews, Alara steps outside, the soft dew drops on the grass sparkling like tiny diamonds under the morning sun. A gentle breeze swirls around her, and the leaves of the trees seem to bow in greeting. Her wings catch the light, their iridescence creating rainbow patterns in the air. She smiles, knowing that even the trees are greeting her with their silent song. As she moves to the small vegetable garden outside her home, Alara greets the curious creatures that wander near. A family of rabbits hops by, their fur a mix of silver and brown, and one of the younger ones stops to nuzzle her hand. "Good morning, Alara." The rabbit chirps, its voice soft and musical. "Will you be going on an adventure today?" Alara laughs softly, brushing the fur from her hands. "I might, but first I need to gather some fresh herbs for my tea," she replies. "And you? Any new riddles for me today?" The rabbit twitches its nose, as if deep in thought. "Perhaps, but you must wait until after your chores. You know the rules, no riddles until the morning is finished." With a playful wink, Alara heads back to her garden, where the plants are beginning to stir. A few of the flowers lean toward her, eager for a little attention. She gently picks a few leaves from her mint and thyme plants, ensuring that she doesn't overharvest. After all, the balance of the forest's magic depends on it. The plants are alive in their own way, and they thrive when treated with care and respect. As she gathers the herbs, a few tiny pixies dart past, giggling and playing a game of tag in the morning sunlight. Their laughter rings through the air, bright and free, like the sound of tinkling bells. Alara waves to them, and they flit around her, teasing her with their playful antics. "No time for mischief, little ones," she calls with a laugh, though part of her secretly wishes she could join in the fun. The morning stretches on as Alara finishes her chores. The last task is to refill the water in her home, drawn from the nearby spring. The stream is fast and clear, and as she fills her tiny pitcher, she sees the reflection of the forest's magic dancing in the ripples. The water sparkles with a silvery glow, as if it holds the essence of the forest itself. With her chores done and the morning tea brewed, Alara steps back into her home, feeling a sense of peace settle over her. There's something magical about starting the day with small, simple tasks. It grounds her, reminding her of the beauty in the ordinary moments of life. And as the warmth of the tea fills her, she feels ready for whatever the day may bring. As Alara bends to gather mint from the garden, she murmurs a soft incantation under her breath. Her magic is gentle, woven into the fabric of the forest itself, and with a light touch, The leaves shimmer as if kissed by dew, their scent stronger, more vibrant. She has always been able to coax the plants to grow and thrive, but it's more than just care, it's part of her connection to the magic of the forest. Each time she nurtures the garden, a faint pulse of energy flows from her, bonding her more deeply to the land. Her wings flutter once more as she lifts a small stone from the ground. With a quiet word, it begins to glow faintly, casting a soft light that hovers above her palm. It's one of her favorite tricks, how the stones of the forest can carry her magic, transforming into little floating orbs of light that illuminate dark corners or guide her through the misty woods. This little stone will be placed back in her garden, where it will light the path for the tiny creatures who visit in the evening, ensuring they don't lose their way in the dark. Even the smallest tasks require a bit of magic. When she goes to collect water from the stream, Alara doesn't need to carry a heavy pitcher. Instead, she raises her hand, and the water flows in response, gathering itself into a sparkling orb that hovers just in front of her. With a smile, Alara sends the orb back to her home, where it will quietly pour itself into the water container, leaving no trace of the effort behind. Her magic is one of efficiency, making the simplest of chores feel almost effortless. As the morning progresses, a breeze picks up, rustling the trees and sending a flurry of leaves dancing through the air. Alara raises a hand, and the breeze shifts in response, swirling around her like a playful companion. She controls the wind with ease, guiding it gently through the branches above. The leaves settle in neat piles around her feet, ready to be collected without lifting a finger. Even when she's in no rush, Alara's magic seems to have a life of its own. Her movements are always accompanied by soft whispers of enchantment. Whether she's straightening the cushions in her home, lighting the hearth with a flick of her wrist, or coaxing the morning mist to drift away from her doorstep. It's an effortless blend of daily routine and magic, where the boundaries between the two are blurred. As Alara prepares her tea, her magic continues to hum beneath the surface. Subtle but ever-present, the herbs mix with a flick of her fingers, stirring themselves into the hot water, and a soft steam rises from the cup, swirling into a fragrant mist that fills the room with a calming aroma. It's a quiet moment, one of many in her day, but to her, it's a reminder that magic is woven into every part of her life, whether it's helping the plants grow, lighting the path for travelers, or simply creating a peaceful, warm space for herself. As Alara finishes her tea, savoring the warmth that spreads through her, a sudden rustling noise comes from the edge of her garden. She freezes, her ears twitching. Something is amiss. She can feel it in the air. The breeze shifts unnaturally, and the ground trembles slightly beneath her feet. Without warning, a large, plump toad, bright green with golden spots, hops into view, its round eyes wide with apparent purpose. It pauses in front of her, puffing out its chest, and croaks in a deep, pompous tone. "Alara, I have an important message for you." Alara stifles a laugh, trying to hide her amusement. The toad is no stranger to her. In fact, it's a regular visitor. Though its important messages usually consist of exaggerated stories or some rather silly demand. Despite its appearance, the toad is surprisingly dignified in its own way, carrying itself as if it were a royal messenger rather than an oversized amphibian. "What is it today, Tiberius?" she asks with a smile, already bracing for something outlandish. The toad clears its throat dramatically, puffing out its chest even more. "No demand. I require a favor. The moonflowers have begun to fade. Yes, but my lily pad is entirely too dry. The water has receded, and it's making me ever so uncomfortable. You simply must do something about it." Alara blinks, her wings fluttering in confusion. The toad was always full of complaints, but she didn't expect him to involve himself in her quest to save the moonflowers. "Tiberius, I'm afraid I'm on an important mission today. "I can't fix your lily pad right now," she says, trying to keep her tone gentle. Tiberius, however, is not easily deterred. "But Alara, you must understand. How can I possibly concentrate on the state of the forest when my poor lily pad is so terribly dry?" His croak grows more pitiful with each word, and he begins to hop around her in an exaggerated circle, like a child throwing a tantrum. "Perhaps you could ask the river to help," Alara suggests, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "It's been known to assist with matters of water, hasn't it?" The toad pauses mid-hop, considering her words. For a moment, it seems like he's about to accept defeat, but then his eyes brighten with realization. "Ah! A brilliant idea! You're absolutely right, of course, Alara! I shall simply demand that return the water to my lily pad at once." Alara suppresses another chuckle, watching as Tiberius puffed himself up again, clearly satisfied with his new plan. She shakes her head, grateful for the amusement, but also slightly bemused by the toad's odd sense of urgency. As the toad hops off in search of the river, Alara turns back to her chores, a smile lingering on her lips. She could never predict when Tiberius would show up with his latest crisis, but his presence was one of the many quirks of living in a fairy tale world. It was moments like these, small and humorous, that kept the days interesting. Just as she begins to move back toward her hearth, there's another sudden disturbance, a flash of color that streaks across the sky, followed by a loud, high-pitched squeal. Alara glances up just in time to see a flurry of sparkles tumbling out of the trees, a group of tiny, mischievous pixies laughing and zooming wildly through the air. "Oh no," Alara calls as the pixies dart toward her garden. Not again. The pixies, always fond of mischief, have decided to make her garden their personal playground for the day. With a series of excited giggles, they start plucking her freshly grown flowers, twisting them into crowns and necklaces, while others zip about, making whirlwinds in the air. One of them, a particularly bold pixie with bright lavender wings, spots Alara and waves enthusiastically. "We're just borrowing a few blooms, Alara." The pixie sing-songs twirling in a circle. "They'll grow back, don't worry." Alara places her hands on her hips, trying to suppress a laugh at their antics. "Borrowing, are we?" she replies, shaking her head. "I'll need them back by this evening, then, or I'll be coming to collect them in person." The pixies pause, considering her words for a moment before erupting into more giggles. "DL," they chirp in unison, zipping away to resume their antics elsewhere. Alara watches them go, a fond smile on her face. It's moments like these that remind her just how unpredictable her world can be. Every day brings a new surprise, whether it's a pompous toad in need of rescue or a group of playful pixies causing chaos in her garden. There's never a dull moment in the enchanted forest, and that's exactly the way she likes it. With a final sigh and a shake of her head, Alara returns to her morning tasks, feeling lighter for the interruptions. No matter how hectic the fairy tale world might get, she knows one thing for certain: it will always be full of surprises. Chapter 3, The Heart of the Day, A Touch of Magic. By midday, the sun sits high in the sky, casting its warm glow across the enchanted forest. The air is thick with the hum of life, chirping birds, the rustling of leaves, and the distant laughter of forest creatures. Alara, now fully energized from her morning tasks, steps out into the heart of the forest with a sense of purpose. This is the time of day when she can truly immerse herself in the work that defines her role, keeping the balance of magic in the forest. Alara isn't just a fairy, she is a steward of the land, a protector of the forest's magic, and a guide for the creatures who call it home. Her job is no simple task. She maintains the harmony between nature and magic, ensuring that both thrive and grow. Every day brings new responsibilities, whether it's calming the winds that grow too wild, tending to the moonflowers that only bloom under specific conditions, or guiding lost travelers through the forest's many hidden paths. Today, Alara has a special mission in mind. Deep within the forest lies the Crystal Cave, a sacred place where the forest's oldest magic resides. It's her responsibility to keep the cave's protective enchantment strong, ensuring that the ancient magic within doesn't slip away. The cave is hidden from most. Only those with a deep connection to the forest magic can find it, and even then, only when it calls to them. Alara is one of the few who can hear that call. As she makes her way toward the cave, Alara's wings shimmer in the dappled sunlight. Her senses are alert, each step attuned to the subtle shifts in the forest's energy. The trees seem to bend slightly as she passes, their branches swaying in greeting. It's a reminder of the bond she shares with the land, one that is both mystical and personal. When she reaches the entrance to the cave, hidden behind a veil of ivy, Alara pauses. She places her hand on the stone entrance, and a soft, glowing pulse of magic travels from her fingertips to the rock. The stone shudders, and a hidden passageway slowly opens, revealing the cave's glowing interior. Inside, the air is cool and damp, filled with the scent of earth and crystal. The walls of the cave are lined with shimmering gems that pulse with faint light, their colors shifting in time with the heartbeat of the forest. Alara walks deeper into the cave, her steps echoing softly in the stillness. At the center of the cavern lies the Heartstone, a large, smooth crystal that holds the forest's magic at its core. Alara kneels before the Heartstone, her wings folding behind her. She closes her eyes, her hands raised in a soft, practiced gesture. She whispers a few words in the ancient language of the forest, words that only she can understand, and a soft glow envelops the Heartstone. The stone responds, its pulse sensing with her own, and the forest magic begins to flow through her, filling her with its energy. It's a delicate process, one that requires both skill and patience. Alara is not only maintaining the Heartstone's enchantment, but also ensuring that the flow of magic within the forest remains steady. If the Heartstone grows weak, the entire forest could fall into disarray, leaving the creatures vulnerable and the magic unstable. It's a responsibility she has always carried, and she feels the weight of it every day. As the magic flows through her, Alara feels a deep sense of peace. This is the heart of her work, the purpose that drives her, keeping the balance of magic alive. The Heartstone hums with energy, and she smiles, knowing that she is doing her part to preserve the forest's ancient power. When the ritual is complete, Alara stands, her wings stretching wide. The Heartstone's glow fades back into the rock, leaving the cave in its natural state once again. Alara steps back, her heart lightened by the success of the task. The forest is safe for now, but her work is far from over. As she exits the cave, Alara feels a new sense of energy surge through her, one that connects her to every tree, every flower, and every creature in the forest. Her role is not just to protect the forest's magic, but to guide it, nurture it, and ensure that it continues to flourish for generations to come. As Alara leaves the crystal cave and steps back into the warmth of the sun, a soft voice calls out from behind her. "Alara, are you really done already?" Turning with a smile, Alara is greeted by the sight of her old friend, Thistle, a grumpy yet endearing hedgehog who serves as the forest's self-appointed watchman. Thistle is small but undeniably fierce, with a thick coat of spines that shimmer with a faint trace of magic. His job, as he often reminds anyone who will listen, is to keep an eye on the forest's creatures and ensure they don't get into too much mischief. "Well, hello, Thistle. Done for now," Alara replies, her smile widening. "What brings you out here today?" Thistle puffs out his chest, clearly pleased to be noticed. "A lot's been going on around here. There's a new group of pixies trying to set up camp near the West Glen. You know how those creatures are, always causing trouble. I'm here to make sure they don't start another whirlwind." his beady eyes narrow with determination. I've got my eye on them, but I thought you might want to give them a little reminder about boundaries. Alara laughs softly. You know, Thistle, I think they know better than to cross paths with you. But I'll stop by later and see what I can do. She reaches down and gently strokes the top of Thistle's head, a gesture of both affection and appreciation. Though small and prickly, Thistle's heart is as big as the forest itself, and he's proven time and again to be a loyal friend. Well, I'll leave them to you then. Thistle grumbles, clearly satisfied that Alara is on the case. Just make sure they don't tear up my favorite moss this time. That stuff doesn't grow back easily. With a final nod, Thistle scurries off into the underbrush, his small body blending into the shadows of the trees. Alara watches him go before continuing on her path. As much as Thistle's warnings are often dramatic, his presence in the forest is a comforting one. He keeps the delicate balance of the forest in check with his tenacity. And Alara knows she can always rely on him to watch over the creatures when she's not around. Not far from the West Glen, Alara hears the familiar sound of chimes, the soft tinkling that signals the arrival of another of her close friends, a fawn named Silas. Silas, with his curling horns and sparkling golden eyes, is known across the forest for his musical talents and his unshakable sense of joy. Alara. Silas calls out, his voice warm and melodic, like the wind through the trees. He's playing a soft tune on his pan flute as he approaches, the notes floating through the air like a gentle breeze. I heard you were near the glen, and I thought I'd stop by. I've composed a new song I think the forest will love. He finishes the last notes with a flourish, looking at her expectantly. Alara smiles, always delighted by Silas' music. I'm sure the forest will love it, Silas. You always have such a way with the trees and the wind. She pauses, her gaze softening as she regards him. What's the song about today? Silas grins, clearly proud of his work. It's about the harmony of the forest, how every leaf, every branch, and every creature plays a part in the greater whole. You see, we are all connected, whether we sing, hum, or simply breathe the same air. I was thinking about you, actually, he adds, teasingly. How you make sure everything stays in balance, just like the music. Alara chuckles lightly, though a hint of warmth colors her cheeks. You're too kind, Silas. It's not always as beautiful as a song. Oh, I don't know about that, he replies with a wink. You have the magic of the forest running through you, just like my music. It's all part of the same symphony, don't you think? He gives her a playful nudge before strumming a few more notes on his flute. The sound is soft, but its effects are immediate. Wildflowers along the forest path bloom, and birds perch nearby, their heads tilted in delight. Alara watches the flowers unfurl, their petals opening in response to Silas' music. There's something magical about the way he makes the world feel alive, and it's a quality she deeply admires in him. As they walk through the forest together, discussing everything from the weather to the latest gossip among the forest creatures, Alara can't help but feel a sense of gratitude for these friendships. She doesn't just protect the forest on her own, she has a community that supports her, that shares her love for the magic of the land. Before long, they reach the West Glen where the pixies are causing their usual mischief. Alara raises a hand to Silas, signaling that she'll handle it from here. He gives a theatrical bow, grinning widely. I'll leave it to you, my dear, he says with a wink. I'll be here if you need a song to calm the storm. As Alara approaches the mischievous pixies, she feels a familiar warmth in her chest, a sense of belonging, not just to the land, but to the people she shares it with. In this enchanted world, no one is truly alone. Everyone has their part to play, and together they keep the forest thriving. As Alara bids Silas farewell and steps deeper into the glen, a soft breeze stirs the leaves above her, carrying with it the faint scent of honeyed nectar. The pixies have mostly quieted, their playful giggles fading into the distance, but something else catches her attention, something more subtle, yet far more enchanting. In the far corner of the glen, where the sunlight streams through the canopy in perfect, golden beams, Alara notices a patch of moss that glows faintly. She pauses, drawn to it, her heart suddenly quickening. It's not uncommon for the forest to display pockets of magic, but this is different. This is something rare. As she approaches the patch, the moss begins to shimmer more brightly, its light pulsing gently, as though it's breathing with the rhythm of the earth. The air around it seems to hum with a quiet, soothing energy. And for a moment, Alara feels as if the entire world has faded away, leaving only the soft glow and the pulse of the magic. She kneels down to get a closer look, her fingers brushing against the moss. It feels cool and velvety under her touch, but as her skin makes contact, tiny sparks of light jump from the moss, swirling around her hand before dissipating into the air like fireflies. Alara gasps in wonder. This is moonvine moss, an incredibly rare plant that only grows in places where magic is at its strongest. It's said to have the power to heal and amplify the magical energy of the land. The moss continues to glow, and Alara feels a surge of magic fill her, pure and untainted by the world outside. It's as though the forest itself is sharing its deepest secrets with her, offering a quiet reminder of the bond they share. She closes her eyes, breathing in deeply, letting the magic wash over her. For a few brief moments, everything feels perfect. The forest, the creatures, and the magic all existing in a delicate harmony. A songbird, perched on a nearby branch, begins to sing a soft, melodic tune that seems to blend seamlessly with the pulse of the moss. The bird's song is light and beautiful, like the very essence of the forest's heart. Alara smiles, her soul lifted by the peaceful, magical moment. She feels like part of something much greater than herself, something ancient and full of wonder. The sunlight filtering through the trees, it catches on the shimmering moss, casting tiny rainbows across the forest floor. Alara stretches out her hand, and as if responding to her gesture, a beam of sunlight lands on her palm, a soft warmth spreading from her fingertips. It's as though the forest itself is greeting her, acknowledging her place within this enchanted world. For a moment, time seems to slow. She stands there, eyes closed, completely immersed in the magic around her. The sounds of the forest, the rustling leaves, the songs of birds, the distant chatter of creatures, blend together into a single harmonious melody. The world feels infinite, yet intimately connected, and Alara knows that she is exactly where she is meant to be. When she finally opens her eyes, the moss begins to fade back into its natural state, its glow dimming to a soft shimmer. Alara rises, her heart light and her spirit renewed. The moment is fleeting, as all moments of pure magic are, but it stays with her. She knows that the forest will continue to reveal its wonders to those who care for it, and she is grateful for the opportunity to witness such beauty. With a final glance at the moss, Alara continues on her path, a quiet smile on her lips. The magic of the forest is always there, waiting to be discovered, waiting to remind her of the endless possibilities that lie within this enchanted world. Chapter 4, Evening Time, a Time for Reflection. As the sun begins to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the forest floor, Alara returns to her cozy cottage nestled in the heart of the enchanted forest. The day's duties are done, and the forest, bathed in the soft golden light of evening, seems to settle into a peaceful stillness. Alara breathes deeply, taking in the scent of damp earth and blooming flowers, a calming reminder of the world she's devoted to protecting. Inside her cottage, the warm glow of a hearth fire crackles softly. She begins her evening routine, a simple but comforting ritual. First, she tends to the fire, adding a few logs to keep it burning through the night. The flames flicker, casting dancing shadows across the walls. while the scent of wood and warmth fills the room. Alara then arranges a small vase of freshly picked wildflowers by the window, their delicate petals brightening the space even as twilight settles in. The forest magic seems to hum quietly around her, as though it too is preparing for the stillness of night. Sitting by the fire, Alara takes a moment to reflect on her day. Her mind drifts to the Heartstone, to the pixies, to the brief but unforgettable moment with the moonvine moss. She wonders about the future, what the forest will be like tomorrow, what challenges it might present. She knows the world she's responsible for is fragile, and yet it thrives in its own chaotic beauty. But as she sips her tea, the comforting stillness is shattered by a soft, echoing knock at her door. It's a knock that's too deliberate to be the wind, too insistent to be a mere visitor. Alara rises from her chair, the warmth of the fire fading slightly as she approaches the door. Her heart quickens, sensing that something is amiss. When she opens it, she's greeted by a tall, shadowy figure, a traveler cloaked in dark, tattered robes. His face is hidden, but his voice is unmistakable, deep and calm, like the murmur of distant thunder. "Good evening, guardian of the forest," the figure says, his voice carrying a weight that feels ancient. "I come seeking counsel." Alara steps back, instinctively reaching for the magic that hums within her, but she knows better than to act without understanding the stranger's intent. "Who are you?" she asks, her voice steady but curious. "I am called Obsidian," the figure replies, his name reverberating with an unsettling authority. "I come from beyond the borders of this forest, from a place where the light of the Heartstone no longer reaches. I've heard tales of your power, of your ability to protect and preserve the magic that binds this world together." Alara's brow furrows. She's heard of places beyond the forest, some far more dangerous than the peaceful glen she calls home. There are rumors of realms where magic is twisted, where darkness clouds the skies, and the creatures of those lands are far less harmonious than her own. But she doesn't let the unease show. "What is it you seek, Obsidian?" The figure pauses, his cloak shifting slightly, as if caught by a breeze that Alara cannot feel. "I seek a way to save my people. The magic that sustains us is dying, and I've been told that only the Heartstone can offer the power to restore it. But I fear that the Heartstone's power is fading. Can you help me?" Alara's heart sinks at the mention of the Heartstone's fragility. She has always known that the forest magic is delicate, but to hear that it might be failing, that it might be powerless to help another realm, fills her with dread. Yet she can see the genuine desperation in Obsidian's voice, and the burden of his request weighs heavily upon her. She feels the weight of the decision before her. To assist him might mean uncovering the truth of the Heartstone's magic, testing the limits of its power, perhaps even risking everything she's worked to protect. But refusing him could have dire consequences for those beyond the forest. It could condemn another world to darkness. Obsidian watches her, sensing her hesitation. "I know this is a great request," he says, his tone gentle but insistent. "But I ask you, Guardian, to consider the balance of all things. Perhaps it is time for you to make a choice, to step beyond the boundaries of this forest and embrace a role much larger than you've ever imagined." Alara stands still, her heart pounding. The forest, her home, calls to her, but so does the world beyond. She looks into Obsidian's eyes, dark, yet filled with a flicker of hope, and wonders what the right path is. In this moment, Alara realizes that she has reached a crossroads, where every decision will shape not only the future of the forest, but the fate of other worlds as well. The weight of the choice presses on her, and she knows that this will not be the first time she will have to make a choice that could change everything. She takes a deep breath, feeling the magic of the forest swirl around her as she contemplates her next move. There is no going back. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows across the forest floor. Alara returns to her cozy cottage, nestled in the heart of the enchanted forest. The day's work has been completed, and the once vibrant greens of the forest are now a mix of deep blues and soft purples as the night prepares to take hold. Alara breathes deeply, taking in the scent of damp earth and blooming flowers, a calming reminder of the world she's spent her life protecting. Inside her cottage, the warm glow of a hearth fire crackles softly. She begins her evening routine, her movements slow and methodical as she tends to the fire, ensuring it will burn brightly through the night. The flames flicker, casting dancing shadows across the walls of her simple, yet cozy space. Alara arranges a vase of freshly picked wildflowers by the window. Their delicate petals brighten the room, even as twilight settles in. She sits by the fire, her hands wrapped around a warm cup of tea. Her mind drifts to the heartstone, the pixies, and the fleeting moment with the moonvine moss. For the first time in a long while, doubt stirs within her. What if the heartstone's power truly is fading? What if the forest needs more than I can offer? She wonders about the future of her beloved forest and the delicate balance she has sworn to protect. But before she can settle into her thoughts, the soft, deliberate knock at the door shakes her from her reverie. A chill runs down her spine. The knock is too purposeful, too insistent, to be a visitor who simply stumbles upon her door by chance. Alara rises and steps cautiously toward the entrance. She instinctively reaches for the magic that hums in the air around her, but something in the stillness tells her to wait. When she opens the door, she's met by a tall, cloaked figure whose face is hidden in shadow. His voice is low and steady, reverberating with an ancient weight, as though he has traveled across time and space to find her. "Good evening, guardian of the forest," he says, his words carrying a gravity that sends a shiver through her. "I come seeking counsel." Alara stands frozen, her senses heightened. She knows this is no ordinary visitor. There is something far more ancient about this figure. "Who are you?" she asks, her voice steady but betraying a hint of curiosity. "I am called Obsidian," the figure replies, his voice deep and resonant. "I come from beyond the borders of this forest, from a land where the light of the Heartstone no longer shines. I have heard of your power and the magic you safeguard here, and I need your help." Alara's mind races. A land beyond the forest, the Heartstone's light fading. These words echo in her mind as she watches him carefully. "What help do you seek?" Obsidian steps closer, his gaze intense, but filled with a quiet desperation. "I come from a realm where magic is dying. The land withers, the creatures fade, and the once vibrant world is now on the brink of collapse. I have traveled far seeking answers. They say the Heartstone's power can restore balance, can heal a world in peril." Alara feels her heart sink. She knows the Heartstone is the lifeblood of the forest, the very source of its magic. The thought of it failing is unthinkable. The forest itself has always been her home, her charge. Could she risk its delicate harmony for the unknown? "I cannot promise you that," Alara says, her voice quiet but firm. "The Heartstone's magic is not a simple tool. It is not to be taken lightly, and it may not be able to help in the way you hope." Obsidian steps forward, his voice softening. "I understand your hesitation, but my people, my realm is dying. We are losing our magic, and without it we face extinction. If the Heartstone's power could be shared, if it could extend beyond your forest, we might be able to survive. And if we do not find a solution, it will affect your world as well. What happens when one realm falls into darkness? Will the magic that sustains you remain unaffected?" Alara feels the weight of his words settle over her. The truth of his plight undeniable, but still a nagging doubt remains. Could she risk the forest's future? Could she let go of the delicate balance she's worked so hard to protect? She takes a deep breath, her hand instinctively reaching for the necklace that holds a small crystal from the Heartstone, a piece of the forest's magic she's carried with her since childhood. For a long moment she doesn't speak. The air between them feels thick with unspoken questions. The forest outside her door is quiet now, as if holding its breath, waiting for her response. Alara knows that her decision, whether to help Obsidian or to protect the forest, will shape the future of not just this realm, but others as well. Alara's struggle with her decision later that evening, after Obsidian has left to give her time to consider. Alara takes a solitary walk through the forest. The moonlight filters through the trees, casting a silvery glow on the path before her. Her mind is a storm of conflicting thoughts. The Heartstone's magic, ancient and powerful, has always been her responsibility. She's never considered it as something that could be shared or used beyond the forest. But Obsidian's words linger. What happens when one realm falls into darkness? As she walks, Alara is reminded of the day she first became the Guardian. She had been a young elf, chosen by the forest itself for her ability to listen to the winds, to understand the language of the trees. It had been an honor and a heavy burden. The forest, its creatures, and the Heartstone had trusted her to protect them. And yet, the more she thinks, the more she realizes that protecting the forest has always meant more than just guarding its boundaries. It has meant maintaining balance between the forest and the world beyond, between magic and its consequences. But how far should she go to protect that balance? Should she leave the forest behind to help another world in need, risking everything she's ever known? Or should she remain steadfast, keeping the Heartstone's power safely within the borders of the forest? The questions swirl in her mind unanswered, as the forest whispers softly around her. There is no clear answer, and in the stillness of the night, Alara feels more alone than ever, a growing sense of urgency. As she returns to her cottage, the weight of Obsidian's request becomes more pressing. The hours seem to slip away faster than they should. The forest around her, normally peaceful and reassuring, now feels restless. The leaves rustle in the wind, and somewhere in the distance, the howl of a wolf echoes through the trees. The night feels darker, the air heavier. Alara senses something, an imbalance, perhaps, or simply her own growing anxiety. Time is running out. Chapter 5 conclusion, a final thought. The moon hangs low in the sky, casting a gentle silver light over the enchanted forest. Alara stands at the edge of the clearing, where the Heartstone pulses softly, casting its steady glow across the land she's sworn to protect. The air is thick with the magic of the forest, but tonight something feels different. The weight of her decision presses down on her shoulders, heavier than any task she's ever faced before. She glances around at the peaceful expanse of the forest, the towering trees, the whisper of leaves in the wind, the shimmering moss at her feet. It has been her home for as long as she can remember, and it is a place of wonder and comfort. But beyond the borders of this forest lies a world of uncertainty, a realm that desperately needs help, a place that has seen its own magic fade into the shadows. As Alara gazes into the distance, her heart finally settles. She knows what she must do. The magic of the Heartstone was never meant to be hoarded. It is meant to be shared, to grow, and to spread light wherever it is needed. She can no longer stay in her comfortable, safe haven. The world beyond the forest calls to her, and the choices she makes tonight will ripple through time and space, touching not only her world, but the lives of others. A final reflection on Alara's life. Alara has spent her life in service to the forest, a role she embraced with love, care, and reverence. She learned the delicate balance of magic, the language of the trees, the song of the birds, and the wisdom of the winds. She lived in harmony with nature, knowing that every choice she made affected the whole. But in this moment, Alara understands that her life, her destiny, is not just about maintaining the balance of the forest. It is also about embracing the larger, interconnected world. Her decision is not easy, nor is it without sacrifice. To leave behind the familiar and step into the unknown is a challenge that anyone could relate to. There are always moments in life when we must decide whether to stay in our comfort zones or venture into new territory, despite the risks. The choice Alara faces, protecting her home or sharing her magic, is a choice we all face in different ways. Whether it's in our relationships, our careers, or our personal growth, we all must confront moments of change and decide how to move forward, even when the path is unclear. Connecting the fairy tale world to the real world, Alara's journey is one of self-discovery and sacrifice, a journey we all share at various points in our lives. The fairy tale world may seem distant from our own, but the lessons it imparts are universal. We all have roles to play, responsibilities to uphold, and sometimes we are called to make decisions that challenge the very foundations of who we are. Just like Alara, we often find ourselves at crossroads, where the right choice may not be the easiest one. Sometimes it's about letting go of the familiar to help others, taking a leap of faith, and trusting that our actions, however small, will make a difference in the long run. And sometimes it's about realizing that the magic we seek outside has always been within us. A call to action as Alara takes her first steps beyond the Heartstone's glow. Leaving the forest behind for a world in need, she invites us all to reflect on our own choices. What are the challenges we face in our lives? How do we choose to move forward? Even when the future is uncertain, we all have moments when we must decide whether to stay or go, whether to act or wait. It's up to us to decide how we will face those moments and what legacy we wish to leave behind. So, we ask you, what would you do in Alara's shoes? Would you stay where it's safe, or venture into the unknown to help those who need you most? Share your thoughts with us below, and let's discuss the magic of choice, sacrifice, and the world beyond our own. As Alara's day comes to a close, we reflect on the complexities of life in a fairy tale world. Even in a place where magic weaves through every leaf and stone, the choices remain just as difficult as in our own lives. Alara's journey reminds us that we all face moments when we must choose whether to protect what we know or risk it for something greater. Just like Alara, we too must decide what paths to take, how to grow, and how our choices shape the world around us. So, what do you think? If you lived in a fairy tale world, would you stay in the comfort of what you know? Or would you venture into the unknown to help others? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Share them with us in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this magical adventure, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Story Pillow for more enchanted tales. Until next time, may your dreams be filled with magic, wonder, and the courage to face whatever choice lies ahead.